The wind was sharp like knives that night. Snow fell heavily over the city of New Terra, one of Earth's outer colonies. Most people stayed inside their warm homes. Streets were empty, silent, and freezing cold. Jason walked fast, hands in his pockets, head low. He had just finished a long shift at the repair dock. His boots crunched through the snow and he pulled his jacket tighter. Just one more turn, and he would reach his apartment. But then he stopped. Something was there, a shape lying between two trash bins. At first he thought it was just more garbage, but something didn't feel right. He took a few steps closer, and then he saw it clearly. A hand. It was small, glowing faint blue, with fingers too long to be human. Jason's eyes widened. What the hell? He moved closer, carefully. Now he could see the whole figure. It was a girl. Alien. Her skin was pale violet, almost white under the cold. Her clothes were thin and torn. She was curled into herself, arms wrapped around her legs, and she was shaking badly. Snow covered her hair, and her lips had turned dark purple. She was freezing to death. Jason looked around. No one else was on the street. Lights were on in nearby buildings, but no one came out, no one cared. He knelt beside her. "Hey, can you hear me?" No answer. Her eyes were half open, but they looked empty. Jason removed his heavy coat and wrapped it around her. Her body felt like ice. "I can't leave you here," he muttered. With effort, he lifted her into his arms. She was light. Too light. Like she hadn't eaten in days. Jason walked fast now, holding her close. She didn't move, didn't speak. Her head rested against his shoulder. She was breathing, but just barely. Inside his apartment, Jason kicked the door shut behind him and placed her gently on the couch. The room was small, just one bed, one kitchen corner, and a heater that hummed softly. He turned the heat up and fetched a blanket, wrapping her in it. He boiled water and filled a bottle to warm her hands. Then he sat beside her, unsure of what to do next. "Who are you?" he whispered. She didn't answer. Her eyes stayed closed, but her body still shook. He placed a warm hand on her forehead. She was like a block of ice. Jason grabbed a med pack and gently wiped the cuts on her face. They looked fresh. Her clothes were dirty and torn in several places, like she had been running or hiding. He brought her a hot drink, just broth from instant powder, but she couldn't even hold the cup. He helped her sip a little. Minutes passed, then an hour. Finally, her eyes opened, not wide, just a little. She looked at him, confused, scared. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Jason smiled gently. "You're safe. It's okay." She stared at him like she didn't understand. Her eyes were bright silver, glowing slightly in the low light. Jason pointed to himself. "Jason, I'm Jason." She didn't respond, just looked around the room slowly, as if checking for danger. Then her body tensed. She sat up suddenly, panicked. Her hands moved to her waist, searching for something that wasn't there. Her breathing became fast, shallow. Jason raised his hands. Hey, calm down, you're okay." She looked at him again, then at the blanket. She touched it softly, then pulled it closer around her. Jason backed off and gave her space. She didn't speak. She just stared. That night, Jason didn't sleep. He stayed on the floor with a blanket, keeping the heater running. The girl stayed, curled up on the couch, silent. Her eyes watched him carefully. In the middle of the night, she whispered something. A single word in a language Jason didn't know. He looked up. "What?" But she didn't repeat it. She just turned away and closed her eyes. Jason stared at the ceiling. Who was she? Why was she left to freeze on the street? And why did no one care? She woke up to the strange sound of water boiling, and a smell she did not recognize. For a moment, she forgot everything. The pain, the cold, the fear. Then, like a crashing wave, it all came back. Her eyes flew open. She was not on the frozen street anymore. She was inside, somewhere warm, a roof above, walls, strange lights. A soft blanket covered her body. She panicked. She sat up fast, her heart pounding like a drum. Her vision blurred. Her thin arms reached toward her hip, where her stun blade used to be, but it was gone. She gasped. Her chest hurt. Her legs trembled. She looked around with wide silver eyes. Everything was unfamiliar. A small room. Warm lights. Shelves with tools. Blank walls. A strange sound, bubbling from a pot on a heat coil. And then she saw him. A human male. Sitting at a small table. Stirring. Something hot. He turned his head and smiled when he noticed her awake. "Hey," he said gently. "You're okay now." Her whole body froze. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked around for exits. There was a door, closed. One window, too small to escape through. She did what she knew best. She backed up into the corner, curled, uptight, and stared at him like a trapped animal. Jason raised both hands slowly. He could see the terror in her eyes. "It's okay. You're safe. No one's going to hurt you." She didn't relax. Not one bit. Jason stood up carefully and walked to the stove. He poured some of the warm soup into a small cup. Then he placed it on the table closest to her and stepped back. "No tricks," he said. "Just food. You were freezing out there." She watched him like a hawk. Then slowly, very slowly, she crawled forward and took the cup. Her fingers were shaking. She smelled the liquid, then sipped, and her eyes widened. It was warm. Her lips moved slightly, as if she wanted to say something, but instead she just drank more. Jason smiled. "I don't know your name, so I'll call you Nova, okay?" She looked up, confused. He pointed to himself. "Jason?" Then he pointed to her. "Nova." She blinked, then looked away. But she didn't seem to hate it. Jason sat on the floor again, just like he had done last night. He didn't want to scare her. He didn't want to act like she owed him anything. After a few minutes, she stood up shakily and walked to the window. She looked outside. The street was still covered in snow. Her breath fogged the glass as she stared. And then she whispered something in her alien language, soft, almost sad. Jason stood up, watching her. "You're not from here, are you?" She didn't answer. But he already knew. There was something heavy in her silence, something painful. Later that night, she explored the room more. Quiet, careful, always keeping one eye on Jason. She picked up objects and studied them. His wrench, his data pad, even the blanket. She moved like someone who hadn't been in a home for a long time. At one point, she saw her reflection in a metal tray on the table. She froze. Her fingers touched her face. The bruises, the scars, the dried blood. And then, without warning, she cried. No sound, just tears falling down her cheeks. Jason stood up but didn't go near. He just watched from a distance. He didn't need to know what happened to her. He already understood. Someone had hurt her. Badly. As she lay down that night, this time on the couch, not the floor, she looked at Jason once more. He had given her warmth, a place to rest. And most importantly, he hadn't asked for anything in return. She placed the blanket tighter around herself and whispered one word softly before closing her eyes. "Jason." He heard it, and for the first time since she arrived, he smiled without worry. Jason woke, up to the sound of humming. Soft. Strange. Not human. It was coming from the couch. He sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. The light from the window spilled across the room. Snow still covered the streets outside, but inside, it was calm. The alien, Girl Nova as he called her, was sitting cross-legged holding a small piece of metal wire he had left on the table. She had shaped it into a perfect spiral, something no human hands could have done without tools, and she was humming a tune that didn't belong to this world. Jason didn't move. He just listened. She stopped suddenly when she noticed him watching. "Sorry," he said softly, raising his hands. It was beautiful. She looked at the wire spiral in her hand, then back at him. Something flickered in her eyes. Fear, maybe. Or guilt. Jason stood up and walked to the kitchenette. "You hungry?" he asked, trying to keep things normal. She didn't answer, but her eyes followed him. He poured some warm broth again and handed her the cup. This time, she didn't hesitate to take it. That was progress. Later that day, Jason tried again. "Can you tell me your name?" He spoke slowly, pointing to himself. "Jason," then pointed at her. "You?" She looked down. He saw her lips move. She tried to say something, but nothing came out. He leaned closer. "It's okay. Just your name." She tried again. Her mouth opened, formed a strange sound, half a word, then stopped. Her whole body tensed, her hands clenched, eyes wide. Jason backed off. "Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to push." She began shaking. Her breathing changed, fast, panicked. He stepped even farther away now. "It's okay. You're safe. I won't ask again." She stood up suddenly, dropping the cup. It shattered on the floor, and then she bolted, ran straight for the door. But it was locked. She clawed at it, trembling, like a caged animal. Jason rushed forward, not to stop her, but to open it. "If you want to go, you can. I'm not keeping you here." But before he could unlock it, she turned around, tears in her eyes. "Name," she whispered. Jason froze. She took a shaky breath, placed a hand on her chest, and said in a cracked, trembling voice, "Sayari." Jason blinked. "Sayari?" She nodded, then dropped to her knees and began crying. Jason didn't touch her. He just sat near her on the floor, not saying anything. After some time, her breathing slowed. She wiped her face with her sleeve and whispered again, "Sayari." "Not Nova." Jason nodded. "Okay, Sayari. Thank you for telling me." She looked at him, really looked. Not with fear, but something else, something softer. And she said her second word in English that day, trust. That night, while Sayari slept peacefully for the first time, Jason checked the local databases. He typed the name slowly, Sayari. Search results came up, and what he saw chilled him to the bone. Wanted Sayari Rilvan, escaped royal subject, extremely dangerous, last seen in human territory. He stared at the screen. Royalty? Dangerous? He looked over at her, this fragile, scared girl sleeping under a blanket in his apartment. She didn't look dangerous. She looked broken. He shut the screen. Whatever the galaxy said about her didn't matter. She had trusted him, and now he would protect her. It began with frost on the mirror. Jason noticed it early that morning. The heater was working fine, humming softly in the corner. The windows were shut, but when he stepped into the bathroom, the mirror was covered in thin, delicate ice patterns like spiderwebs made of snow. He touched it. Cold. Too cold. He frowned but didn't say anything. Maybe it was nothing. Sayari sat on the floor, staring at his old tool bag. She wasn't talking much today. Something was different, quieter, heavier. Jason cooked breakfast and handed her a plate. She held it in her hands but didn't eat. Her eyes were distant. "Sayari?" he asked gently. "You okay?" She didn't respond. Instead, she whispered something under her breath. Jason didn't understand the words, but the lights flickered. Just for a second. He turned slowly toward the ceiling, then back to her. Her hands were glowing faint blue, and steam rose from the hot food on her plate, not because it was hot, but because her skin was freezing. That night, Jason woke up coughing. The air in the apartment had turned ice cold. His breath came out in white mist. He got up quickly, confused. The heater said it was 23 degrees Celsius, but it didn't feel like it. He walked into the living area and stopped. Frost was spreading across the walls. Cracks of thin ice ran along the floor tiles like veins, and Sayari was curled up in the corner, crying in her sleep. Her body glowed faintly under the blanket and around her. The cold was alive. Jason grabbed an extra blanket and approached her carefully. Her breath was shaky, her skin pale like snow. She looked like she was in pain. Sayari. Hey, wake up. Her eyes flew open. She gasped, then screamed, a burst of pure fear and panic. Jason fell backward as a wave of cold air exploded from her body, knocking over the table lamp and freezing the glass of water nearby solid. The lights popped darkness. Jason could barely move from the cold. His fingers felt numb, but still he crawled to her, grabbed her shoulder and whispered, "You're okay. You're here. With me. You're not alone." The glow faded. The air calmed. She blinked at him, shaking. I didn't mean..." Jason pulled the blanket tighter around her. "It's okay, you were dreaming." She stared at the ice-covered room. "No," she whispered. "It was memory." Later, she explained, slowly in broken words, her kind weren't just royalty. They were created, designed to carry energy inside them. Cold energy, not ice, but something worse, something ancient. She had been trained to control it. But fear, pain, panic made it escape. "I freeze what I fear," she said softly. "I kill what I touch. If I'm not careful." Jason looked around the room. The damage wasn't too bad, but the fear in her eyes was real. "Then we learn," he said. She looked confused. "We learn how to control it," Jason repeated. "Together." She blinked. "You help me?" she asked. He nodded. "I won't leave you." From that night on, Jason kept fire crystals lit in the corners of the room. Small, energy stones that gave off safe heat. He brought her gloves to wear and taught her to calm her breath through simple exercises. Some days were good, others less so, but he never gave up. Even when frost crept along the walls again, even when his apartment looked more like a cave than a home, he stayed. With her. Because somehow, he knew. The cold wasn't just following her. It was part of her. And maybe, just maybe, the warmth he gave was the only thing keeping it from consuming them both. The knock didn't come. It was the silence that warned Jason first. That thick, heavy silence. No heater hum. No city noise. Even the wind outside. Gone. Jason looked up from the old data pad he was fixing. The screen froze. Static danced across it. He frowned. "Sayari?" he called softly. She was sitting on the couch, staring straight ahead. Her face had gone pale, even paler than usual. Her silver eyes were locked on the door. Jason stood up slowly. "What is it?" Her lips moved. "They found me." Before Jason could respond, the door exploded inward, blown apart in a flash of blue sparks. 3 figures stormed in, tall, armored, alien. One of them held a glowing weapon shaped like a spear. Another had a scanner that beeped fast as it pointed. At Sayari, Jason grabbed the first thing he could, his wrench. "Back off," he shouted. The nearest hunter laughed. "Step aside, human. That thing belongs to us." Jason stepped in front of Sayari. She's not a thing, and she's not going anywhere. The alien with the spear stepped forward. "Move, or die," Sayari stood up slowly. Her hands shook, but her voice was calm. "No, I won't go back." The hunter hissed. "You don't get a choice, failure. You're broken property." Jason's blood boiled. "She's not property." The alien raised his spear, and Jason moved. Fast. He swung the wrench with all his strength, hit the spear right before it fired. The energy bolt exploded sideways, hitting the wall. Sayari raised her hand, and a wave of cold blasted from her body. The floor iced over instantly. One hunter slipped and crashed into the heater. Another fired a shock dart, but Sayari ducked, rolled, and Jason caught the attacker with a wild swing to the knee. They weren't soldiers. They were retrieval dogs, and Jason had just become their biggest problem. The lead hunter growled. "You want to die for her, human?" Jason stood in front of Sayari, breathing hard, wrench in hand. "I want you to leave now." The ice under the alien's boots cracked loudly as Sayari stepped forward. Her hands were glowing again, but this time, she wasn't afraid. She was focused. "You'll never cage me again," she said. Frost rose from her skin like mist. The lead hunter hesitated, then cursed in his own language. "Fall back, she's unstable." They backed away through the broken door, one limping, one coughing. Before leaving, the last one looked back at Jason with hate in his eyes. "You just made enemies human. The Empire doesn't forget." Then they were gone. Jason locked the door, or what was left of it, with a metal pipe and an old chair. He turned to Sayari. She was shaking again. He moved to comfort her, but this time, she stepped toward him first. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't want this to happen." Jason placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's not your fault." "They'll come back," she said, "with more." "I know," she looked up at him. "You don't have to stay." Jason chuckled. Too late for that. That night, as Sayari rested, Jason stared out the broken window. The stars above seemed farther than ever, and yet one of them had fallen into his life, cold, hunted, and alone. And now, they were coming for her, for both of them. But Jason had made his choice. He would stand between her and the galaxy every single time. She stood in the middle of the room, staring at the broken pieces of the door. The morning sun lit her violet skin in golden tones. But Sayari didn't feel warm. She hadn't slept. Not after what happened. Not after what she remembered. 10 years ago, she stood before the high chamber of ice, her hands trembling. Her body small, her eyes afraid. "Project 9X," the voice called from behind the glass. "Yes, Commander," the young Sayari replied. "You will now activate your core." She shook her head. I don't want to hurt anyone." The scientist didn't blink. "You weren't created to want, you were created to serve." A cold collar tightened around her neck. A silent scream froze the training room into shards. Jason watched her carefully as she spoke. Her voice was flat, but her fingers twisted in her lap. "They made me. I'm not born like others." He didn't interrupt. "They called me 9X, a cold-class hybrid, half synthetic and half something else. I was built to be a weapon, quiet, beautiful, deadly." She looked down at her hands. "I passed every test. Everyone except the last." Jason leaned in. "What was the last test?" She hesitated. "Obedience." She stood, walking slowly to the frost-covered window. "I was told to destroy a rebel village. They said it would prove my control, but when I got there, I saw children, families like me." She paused. "I refused. I dropped my control. I ran." Jason's eyes were locked on her. "I hid on cargo ships. I changed names. But they always find me." He asked, "Why do they care so much?" Sayari's voice dropped to a whisper. "Because I am the last working prototype, the only one who survived." She turned to him. "They want me because I'm proof. Proof that their weapons program succeeded. Proof that their cruelty worked." Jason stood, heart heavy. He walked toward her, then gently reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. "You're not a weapon," he said. "You're not a project or a prototype." She looked up. "You're Sayari, that's enough." They sat for a long time in silence. But there was one more truth. One more fear. Sayari swallowed hard. "Jason, yeah? If they take me, Again, they'll erase my memories. Turn me into what I was meant to be. Jason's grip tightened on her hand. They won't. You don't know what they're capable of. No, he said firmly. But they don't know what I'm capable of either. Later that day, Jason went out into the city, asking old contacts, buying supplies, patching the broken door, strengthening every window. When he returned, Sayuri was sitting at the table. A map was open in front of her. "What's this?" Jason asked. "I found their signal, the one tracking me." Jason blinked. "You can do that?" She nodded. "It's faint, but I know their code." "You're not thinking of going to them, are you?" She shook her head. "I'm thinking of shutting it down. Forever." Jason smirked. "That's more like it." That night, Sayuri stood at the window again. She didn't hum. She didn't cry. She simply stared at the stars and whispered, "Let them come." The city didn't know it yet, but war had come, not with armies, not with bombs, but with a whisper, a signal, and one girl who refused to kneel again. The sky above New Terra turned dark at noon. Clouds spun unnaturally. Lightning cracked without thunder. The ground beneath the human colony trembled, subtle, but steady. Jason looked out his window. "They're here," Sayuri said, her voice calm. Jason didn't ask how she knew. He just nodded. "Then we're ready." 2 days earlier, Jason and Sayuri had worked through the nights. They rewired the signal disruptor using spare tech from the repair docks. Sayuri modified it using her cold energy, crystallizing the inner core into something the Empire's trackers couldn't penetrate. It wasn't just about hiding anymore. It was about sending a message. Jason connected an old comm broadcaster to the core. "Once we hit the frequency, we send it galaxy-wide," he said. "A clear message." Sayuri looked at him. "You know what this will do?" "I do. They'll call you a traitor." Jason smiled. "Good." Now the street outside went silent again. People vanished into homes. Doors locked. Everyone could feel the pressure in the air. A small Empire dropship hovered above the rooftops, black, silent, deadly. 3 more followed behind. Soldiers poured out. Not bounty hunters this time, but enforcers, wearing silver masks, weapons drawn. Leading them was a tall woman in armor of glass and bone. Sayuri's breath caught in her throat. Commandant Varel. Jason had never seen her before, but he felt the danger in her every step. She walked like someone who never failed, someone who didn't believe in mercy. They didn't wait. The Empire blew open the street's entrance, moving straight for Jason's building. Inside, Sayuri looked at the control pad. "Are you sure?" she asked. Jason placed his hand over hers. "I never left you, Sayuri. I'm not starting now." She gave a small, brave smile. They pressed the button together. The signal roared to life, across nearby cities, across satellites, across distant stations. A voice echoed into the stars. "This is Jason Halvers of Earth Colony New Terra. The Empire hunts Sayuri, calls her a weapon, but she is more than that. She is alive. She has a mind, a soul, a choice. She chose freedom, and I chose to stand with her. Come for us. But know this, humans don't run. We protect our own, even if they're not born human." The room shook, the building groaned, and the front wall was ripped apart. Enforcers stormed in. Jason stood in front of Sayuri, wrench in one hand, shield generator in the other. "You've made a mistake, human," Commandant Varel said. Jason nodded. "I usually do, but I never regret the right ones." The first wave hit. Sayuri moved with precision, freezing the floor, walls, weapons. Jason charged 2 with his shield, knocking them into the stairwell. An explosion rocked the apartment. Smoke, heat, cold blasts. Then, silence. Sayuri stood in the middle of the room, breathing hard, her arms glowing bright blue. Everyone else was on the ground, except Varel. The commandant stepped forward. She raised one hand, and with a hum, activated a trap field, a prison of light and force around Sayari. Jason rushed toward her, but a blast from Varel knocked him to the wall. "No more," Varel said coldly. "The galaxy doesn't need kindness, it needs control." She turned to Sayari. "You were made to obey, to serve, to kill." "I was made to feel nothing," Sayari whispered. But he changed that. Her hands sparked inside the force cage. Varel smirked. "You can't break it." "You're right," Sayari said. "I can't." She turned her head toward Jason. "But he can." Jason forced himself up. His shield generator was cracked. His body ached, but he saw the panel behind the commandant, the one that powered the field. He ran. She turned. Too late. His wrench slammed into the panel. The field exploded. Sayari's body lit up like a star. In one cry, she released everything she had been holding back. A storm of cold light filled the room. Pure, ancient, beautiful. It didn't freeze. It transformed. The soldiers stopped fighting. They lowered their weapons. Even Varel dropped to one knee, her armor cracking under the pressure of the cold, then silence again. Only Sayari's soft breath, only Jason's heartbeat. She looked at him and smiled. "I'm free." Hours later, Earth Council sent their ships, not to arrest, but to protect. The message had reached millions: humans, aliens, rebels, and peacekeepers. Some saw Sayari as a threat, but most saw her for what she truly was, a girl who had the power to destroy, but chose love instead. Jason and Sayari sat on the edge of the roof, watching ships fly past. "You could run now," Jason said. "Disappear. Be safe." Sayari shook her head. "You said I was family." He chuckled. "I did. I want to stay." He nodded. "Then stay." She leaned against his shoulder, her voice soft. "I'm not scared anymore." Jason smiled. He said, "of what comes next?" "But?" she asked. He looked at her and said the only truth that mattered now. "But I'm not alone."